You won't like what I'm about to say, but you need to hear it. The reason you feel stuck isn't because you're not talented. It's not because you're unlucky. It's because you're comfortable. And that comfort is slowly killing your potential. Every goal you've put off, every dream that still feels out of reach, it's waiting for one thing, for you to step into the discomfort you keep avoiding. In the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you exactly why your comfort zone is the most dangerous place you can be and how to break free from it. Don't scroll. This might be the moment that changes everything. Comfort is something we all crave. It's familiar. It's easy. It gives us a sense of control in a world that often feels chaotic. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying comfort. It's natural to want stability and predictability in life. But while comfort feels safe, it has a dangerous side we rarely talk about. It limits growth. In fact, it often stops growth dead in its tracks. When you're in your comfort zone, you don't have to stretch. You don't have to risk failure. You don't have to feel the sting of rejection or the pressure of high expectations. That's the appeal. But there's also the trap. Growth, real, meaningful, lasting growth, only happens when you're willing to step into discomfort, when you take on challenges you're not fully prepared for, when you say yes to things that scare you, when you fail and get back up. None of that happens in comfort. The irony is many people believe they're growing simply because time is passing. But growth isn't automatic. It's intentional. You can spend years in the same job, the same habits, the same mindset, and never grow because you're not challenging yourself. You're not being tested. And without resistance, without pressure, without stretching your limits, you don't change, you don't evolve, you just get better at staying the same. Comfort makes us passive, it makes us settle. It whispers, this is good enough, even when deep down we know we're capable of more. And the longer we stay there, the more we convince ourselves that we're not supposed to want more, that ambition is dangerous, that discomfort is a threat. But it's not. Discomfort is the birthplace of every breakthrough, every success story, every transformation, every leap forward. It all begins with someone stepping outside their comfort zone. Think about a time when you grew the most as a person. It probably wasn't when everything was easy. It was when you were challenged, when life forced you to adapt, when you faced something uncertain and made it through. That's when you found new parts of yourself. That's when your character was built. That's when your mindset expanded. Growth is forged in friction, not ease. People often wait for the right time to change. They say they'll start when they're more confident, when they have more clarity, when the fear goes away. But that time never comes, because confidence doesn't come before action, it comes after it. Clarity doesn't precede the journey, it's discovered on the path. You grow by doing, not by waiting. The comfort zone gives you the illusion of progress. You might be checking off tasks, hitting small goals, staying productive, but none of it stretches you, none of it awakens your potential. It's not that comfort is bad in itself, it's that too much of it becomes a cage. And it's a quiet, polite, well-decorated cage that you don't even realize you're in until years pass and you ask yourself, why do I feel stuck? You were never meant to stay the same. Life is built for evolution. Your mind, your body, your potential, it's all designed to grow, but it needs pressure. It needs challenge. It needs friction. And you don't find that in your comfort zone. So the question is not whether you're safe where you are. The real question is, are you growing? And if the answer is no, it might be time to trade a little comfort for a lot of progress, because everything you want, every version of you that you dream about, is waiting just beyond what feels easy. Discomfort is something most of us try to avoid. It's inconvenient, it's painful, and it makes us feel uncertain. But what if discomfort wasn't something to run from? What if it was something to move toward? The truth is, discomfort is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's often a sign you're doing something right. It's a signal, a message from your mind and body that you're stepping into unfamiliar territory, and that's exactly where growth happens. When you're comfortable, you're in control. You know what to expect. There's no risk, no fear, no real challenge. But growth doesn't occur in places of ease. Growth is forged in struggle, in challenge, in the moments when you feel like quitting but choose to keep going. Discomfort is a sign that you are stretching beyond what's easy. And that's where your potential begins to reveal itself. Think of it like working out. You don't build muscle by lifting weights that are light and effortless. You grow when the weight feels heavy, when your arms are shaking, when your body wants to stop, but you push through anyway. That discomfort is not a signal to quit. It's the exact proof that your body's being challenged. That same principle applies to your mind, your skills, your confidence, your leadership, everything. Discomfort shows up when you try something new, when you speak up in a meeting for the first time, when you apply for a job you're not sure you're qualified for, when you take a leap towards something that doesn't guarantee success, that fear in your chest, that doubt in your head, that's discomfort. But it's also proof that you're growing, that you're expanding your capacity, that you're no longer playing small. The mistake many people make is believing that discomfort is danger, that if something feels hard or unfamiliar, it means they're not ready. But readiness is a myth. Nobody ever feels completely ready to face the next big challenge in their life. They just choose to step into it anyway. And it's in that process, in the tension, the messiness, the fear, that growth is born. Discomfort is how you evolve. It's how you discover what you're made of. You don't find your strength by staying where you've always been. You find it by facing something you thought you couldn't handle and realizing you can. Every time you face discomfort and don't back down, you become stronger, more confident, more capable. You raise your threshold for what you can endure and achieve. And let's be clear, discomfort doesn't mean recklessness. It doesn't mean running toward chaos just for the sake of it. It means being intentional about stepping outside the boundaries that have kept you stuck. It means recognizing that fear and doubt are not stop signs, they are signposts. They tell you that you're headed somewhere new, somewhere meaningful. Most people live their lives in patterns. They repeat the same actions, think the same thoughts, make the same choices because it's comfortable. But change only happens when you interrupt the pattern, and that interruption always feels uncomfortable. That's not failure, that's progress. Discomfort is the doorway to transformation. It's not something to be avoided, it's something to be embraced. Because within that discomfort is the challenge that builds you, the experience that shapes you, the lesson that elevates you. If you're feeling uncomfortable right now, good. That means you're in motion. That means you're not settling. That means you're growing. And the people who grow, who evolve, who lead, who achieve, the people who change the world are never the ones who stayed comfortable, the ones who leaned into the fear, embraced the discomfort, and kept moving forward. So don't wait for it to feel easy. Trust the discomfort. It's not the end of your journey, it's the beginning. Fear is a powerful emotion. It's built into our wiring as a survival mechanism to protect us from danger, to help us avoid pain. But in the modern world, fear often shows up not in life-threatening situations, but in the quiet moments when we think about stepping into something new, unfamiliar, or bold. It creeps in when we dream big. It whispers in our ear when we consider taking a risk. And when we listen to it, when we avoid it, it doesn't just keep us safe, it keeps us small. Avoiding fear is one of the most subtle and dangerous ways we sabotage our own growth. Not because fear is bad, but because what's on the other side of that fear is often something meaningful, a goal, a relationship, an opportunity, a version of ourselves that we haven't met yet. But instead of moving forward, we retreat. We say, not yet, or I'm not ready, or what if I fail? And in doing so, we build a life that's based on safety, not fulfillment. The truth is, most of the dreams that live inside you, the things you feel called to do, the version of you you're meant to become, those dreams live just beyond fear. They require courage, risk, and uncertainty. They require you to walk into a situation without a guarantee. But if you're constantly avoiding fear, you'll never reach those dreams. You'll only stay in the loop of what's familiar and safe, even if it's unfulfilling. Think about the things you've wanted to do but haven't. Maybe you've wanted to start a business, write a book, speak on stage, ask for promotion, move to a new city, or leave a toxic situation. Why haven't you? Most people say they're waiting for the right time or more confidence. But often that's just fear dressed up in logic. Because confidence doesn't come before you act, it comes after you act. You gain confidence by walking through fear, not around it. Fear creates imaginary walls. It makes the challenge seem bigger than it is. It magnifies the risk and minimizes your ability to handle it. But here's what's often missed. Fear is rarely about the actual event. It's about the meaning you attach to it. You're not afraid of speaking in public. You're afraid of being judged. You're not afraid of failure. You're afraid of what failure will make you believe about yourself. But those beliefs are optional. They're not facts, they're interpretations. And the more you challenge them, the more they lose their power. Avoiding fear feels good in the moment. It gives you relief, but that relief is temporary. Over time, it turns into regret. It turns into wondering what could have been. It turns into a slow erosion of self-trust, because deep down you know you backed down from something that mattered. And the longer you avoid fear, the more power it gains over you. You begin to believe the lie that fear equals danger, that fear is the signal to stop. But in reality, fear is often the clearest sign that you're on the right path, because it means you're stepping into something meaningful. The people who achieve great things in life are not fearless. They just refuse to let fear dictate their actions. They move forward with fear, not in spite of it. They feel the uncertainty, the doubt, the tension, and they show up anyway. That's what separates those who grow from those who remain stuck. Your dreams are not waiting for you to be fearless. They're waiting for you to be brave. Bravery isn't about the absence of fear. It's about taking action even when fear is present. It's about choosing progress over comfort, growth over safety, and purpose over protection. So the next time fear shows up, don't back down. Lean in. Listen to what it's trying to protect, but don't let it make the final decision. Because on the other side of fear is not just a goal, it's the life you were meant to live. Most people spend their lives in the realm of what they know, their routines, their skills, their environments, all familiar, all predictable. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with the known, it comes with a quiet cost. It limits possibility, because your greatest potential doesn't exist in what's already familiar. It lives just outside of it, in the unknown, in the stretch, in the uncertainty, in the space you haven't yet explored. Human beings are wired for comfort. We're drawn to what feels safe, repeatable, and manageable. But comfort and growth rarely coexist. What you already know can keep you functioning, but it won't help you transform. It's like walking the same circle every day and hoping to discover something new. You can only find new ground when you're willing to leave the path you've already mastered. The challenge is that the unknown feels risky. It feels like stepping off a cliff without knowing if the parachute will open. And that's why so many people choose not to leap. They tell themselves, once I feel more prepared, I'll go for it. But preparation is limited when you've never actually been in the territory you're trying to reach. You can't fully prepare for what you've never experienced. You can only step into it and grow through it. Your potential is not limited by your past. It's limited by your willingness to explore your future. Every person you admire, every success story you've heard, every breakthrough you've seen, it happened because someone dared to go beyond what they knew. They didn't wait until they had all the answers. They moved forward with courage, curiosity, and a willingness to fail. They chose progress over predictability. Think of any major turning point in your life, the moments that shaped you, strengthened you, redefined you. They probably didn't happen while everything was going smoothly. They happened during change, during risk, during times when you had to figure things out on the fly. That's because growth requires pressure, it requires friction, it requires you to do something you've never done so you can become someone you've never been. There's a reason people often feel stuck even when life looks good on the surface. It's because they've settled into the known and stopped pursuing the unknown. Deep down, they know there's more in them, more they could become, more they could create. But they've built a life that's optimized for safety, not growth. And the longer they stay there, the smaller their world becomes. The unknown is uncomfortable, yes, but it's also where all your potential lives. It's where your untapped talents, your bold ideas, your future breakthroughs are waiting. The challenge is that the unknown doesn't come with a map. You don't get step-by-step instructions. You only get a direction and the invitation to trust yourself. When you step into the unknown, you start to discover things about yourself you couldn't see before. You build resilience, you unlock creativity, you grow in confidence, not because everything goes perfectly, but because you realize you can handle more than you thought. That's what the unknown gives you, a mirror to your true potential. So if you're feeling like you've hit a ceiling, ask yourself this: are you stuck because you've reached your limit or because you're afraid to leave what you know? Most of the time, it's the latter. And that's good news, because it means your next level isn't far away. It's just on the other side of your comfort zone. The known will keep you where you are. The unknown will take you where you're meant to be. Choose the unknown. Choose your potential. Comfort zones are deceptive. They start off as a place of relief, a space where things are manageable, familiar, and predictable. It feels good to be there. There's no pressure, no risk, no fear of failure. You know how things work. You know what to expect. But over time, what once felt like a safe space can quietly become a cage. And before you even realize it, your comfort zone becomes a prison. It doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in gradually. You make a decision to stay where it's safe. Then you make that decision again and again and again. Eventually you stop questioning it. You stop pushing. You stop reaching. And without even noticing, your world starts shrinking. The boundaries of what you think is possible begin to close in. And you start building a life around limitation, not expansion. The scariest part about this prison is that it doesn't look like one. It doesn't have bars or locks. It looks like stability. It looks like routine. It looks like staying in a job you've outgrown because the paycheck is steady. It looks like staying in a relationship that doesn't inspire you because it's easier than being alone. It looks like turning down opportunities because you don't feel ready. It looks like a life on repeat. When you live in your comfort zone for too long, you stop challenging your beliefs about who you are and what you're capable of. You start accepting mediocrity. You start convincing yourself that this is just how things are. And eventually you stop dreaming altogether. That's how the prison wins, not by forcing you to stay, but by making you forget you can leave. Growth demands risk. It requires uncertainty. It involves discomfort. And that's why many people choose to avoid it. What they don't realize is that the cost of staying the same is far greater than the discomfort of change. Because while you're busy staying safe, time keeps moving, opportunities keep passing, and slowly the gap between the life you're living and the life you're capable of gets wider and wider. Comfort zones kill ambition. They dull creativity. They silence courage. And the longer you stay inside, the harder it becomes to leave. Not because the door is locked, but because you forget how to walk through it. You forget how to bet on yourself. You forget what it feels like to be challenged, to rise, to evolve. But here's the truth. Nothing extraordinary happens in the comfort zone. No breakthrough, no transformation, no legacy is built there. The people who achieve great things, who lead with purpose, who make an impact, they aren't fearless and they aren't superhuman. They're just people who refused to stay trapped in comfort. They were willing to step into the unknown, to risk failure, to stretch beyond what was easy. The prison of comfort is quiet, but it is powerful. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It tells you you're not ready. It says, what if you fail? It reminds you of all the things that could go wrong. But the real danger isn't failure, it's staying stuck. It's waking up one day and realizing you never really lived because you spent your life trying not to lose. The good news is this, the door is open. The key has always been in your hands. You just have to decide that comfort is no longer enough. You have to want growth more than you want safety. You have to choose freedom over familiarity. Because your potential was never meant to be confined. You weren't born to stay the same. And the life you truly want, it doesn't live inside the comfort zone, it lives beyond it. Most people live their lives wearing a mask, a version of themselves that feels acceptable, safe, and predictable. It's not because they're fake. It's because over time we learn how to adapt. We learn how to please others, how to meet expectations, how to fit into the boxes the world builds around us. And little by little, the real version of who we are gets buried, not because it disappears, but because we don't give it permission to come forward. And what holds it back more than anything else is fear. That's why courage is not just a trait, it's the bridge to the real you. Courage is what allows you to speak the truth when your voice shakes. It's what drives you to take the first step even when you can't see the full path. It's the fuel that powers every meaningful decision in your life, not because it guarantees success, but because it reconnects you with what really matters. Authenticity, integrity, purpose. You can't access your full potential without courage because your true self doesn't live in the shadows. It lives out in the open where it's vulnerable and exposed. And stepping into that place requires heart. Being the real you isn't about being loud, aggressive, or fearless. It's about being honest. Honest about what you want, what you believe, what you feel, and what you're capable of. But honesty is risky. It challenges the status quo. It may disappoint others. It may not be understood. And that's why so many people trade their authenticity for acceptance. They shape their identity around what's safe, not what's true. But every time you do that, you drift further from yourself. The real you is not perfect. It's not always polished. It's not always comfortable, but it's powerful, it's unique, it's alive. And the more you step into it, the more energy you feel, the more clarity you gain, the more connection you build, not just with others, but with yourself. Because the most painful disconnection isn't between you and the world. It's between you and you. Courage reconnects that divide. It says, I'm going to show up even if it's messy. It says, I'm going to pursue what's meaningful even if it's scary. It says, I'm going to live in alignment even if it costs me comfort. That alignment is where freedom lives, and it's also where fulfillment begins. You don't find the real you by following someone else's path. You find it by creating your own. That takes courage, because it means stepping away from the crowd. It means saying no to what isn't right for you. It means standing up when it would be easier to stay quiet. It means risking being misunderstood for the sake of being real. And here's what's powerful. Every act of courage reveals more of you. Every time you say what you really feel, every time you pursue what you really want, every time you show up as you truly are, you reclaim a part of yourself that the world told you to hide. You remember that you're not here to perform. You're here to live. Fully, boldly, honestly. It's not easy. It's not comfortable. But it's necessary. Because without courage, the real you stays locked behind fear. And a life lived in fear is never fully lived. But a life built on courage, that's where you find your voice. That's where you find your power. That's where you find the version of you that was always there, waiting to be seen, heard, and known. So if you feel disconnected from who you are, if you feel like you've been hiding, the answer isn't to change who you are. The answer is to be brave enough to be who you are. Because courage isn't just a choice. It's the bridge that takes you home.